Hey, everybody. Welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast. My name is Eugene Driscoll of valleyindy.org. If you are not aware, if you somehow stumbled upon this and don't know what you're watching, valleyindy.org is an online newspaper covering Derby, Ansonia, and the town of Seymour. I have a cold. I apologize in advance for the way I sound. I've been sick. Whole family's been sick the last week or so. They're getting better. Now I've got it. We're going to be talking about the Derby budget. There's a public hearing tonight, as you can see, hopefully flashing across the screen. Go ahead, leave any comments, suggestions, or complaints if you're watching this on Facebook, and I'll flash it across the screen. But tonight, 6 p.m. on Zoom, public hearing on the preliminary Derby budget. That's when the public gets to come out, at least virtually, and share your opinions, have your say, weigh in on what Mayor Rich Zekin and the Derby Board of Apportionment and Taxation want to do with your money, right? At the end of the day, the budget, it's our money. It's taxpayer money. So yeah, this is the Derby episode.
Derby, Connecticut.
But before I get to that.
What a nice small Connecticut town.
Yes.
They've got just 5 square miles. That's all they got there.
It's not all I got there, right? You got the Valley Indy. So, all right. Before I get to the Derby budget discussion, they adopted a preliminary budget last week, April 18th. I wasn't aware. A lot going on in my life personally that I've been dealing with. Great Give. The Great Give is coming up 8 days. 8 days from now is the Great Give. You don't know what the Great Give is? Well, allow me to share the screen and I'll explain to you what the Great Give is. Great Give is a 36-hour online fundraiser for every nonprofit group in the Naugatuck Valley and beyond. We're talking Greater New Haven, Bridgeport, and the Valley, including this publication. I need to raise $10,000 next Tuesday and Wednesday. Donate.valleyindy.org. Donate.valleyindy.org if you're so inclined. I am planning to do another streamathon. Going to try to live stream as much as I can. I am not prepared for the Great Give at all. I've done no prep work for it because I've just been overwhelmed with other things, but I'm going to get on it this week. As soon as I can write these Derby stories, I'll get on it. I know Ansonia has some stuff going on this week. I'm not going to be able to cover it. And I think Gene's going to a concert. My one freelancer's decided to take a couple of days off right before the Great Give, which hits me in the feels. But donate.valleyindy.org. I will be reaching out to a bunch of nonprofits to invite you on to come talk about your nonprofit, the impact you make on the lives of people in the Naugatuck Valley, and how and why people should support you. So again, May 3rd, May 4th. Great Give, ladies and gentlemen. It's the one time a year I rattle the can and play the hype train. If there's any dabblers out there. Great Give. May 3rd, May 4th. Stole that from Chad Zumach. So, and just a little bit about the Valley Indy, by the way. You know, it's a one-person operation. I saw a person, I put a traffic alert on Facebook this morning about a car accident on Route 8 South. I just put that out there because I know it was the heat of rush hour and a lot of people might be heading out. So I just put it out as a traffic alert. And I saw somebody requested photos from the car accident as if I'm not a guy in my basement. One-man operation. I don't have it. I don't even have a photographer. I have one camera. I don't even think it works. Thomas Egan says, ride the hype train, look forward to the Great Give. Yeah, it'll be fun. If you don't know what the Great Give is, please tune in next week, assuming I can get it together. But just real quick. So most newspapers that I worked at before the Valley Indy, you had photographers to take pictures. You had a news clerk to put up the obituaries and to type in press releases. You had a marketing department. You had a sales department. There were editors, right? The two top editors would be the managing editor and the editor-in-chief, and then a slew of copy editors who would review stories after they were handed in from the reporters. You'd have beat reporters, right? And then you'd have, I guess nowadays, they have people doing social media, people who do the Facebook and things like that. Valley Indy's got me. And I'm asking you next week to support this organization. The money doesn't go directly to me. It goes into the OJP. I'm part of the Online Journalism Project. So that's to make sure I'm not stealing. All right, so more to come. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Zoom. Public hearing on the proposed Derby budget. There's a preliminary budget that was adopted April 18th. Again, tonight, 6 p.m. on Zoom is your chance to weigh in, Derby, on the proposed budget. If you want to join the Zoom meeting, let me see if I can share another thing. Go to the City of Derby website, click their meeting calendar, and then scroll down to find today's date, and you can get the information you need to join the meeting. It's Monday, April 24th at 6 p.m. tonight on Zoom. So again, you want to weigh in on the budget, do so. I will also be stream sniping them, I guess it's called, at 6 p.m. But keep in mind, if you're watching on the Valley Indy, if you're on Facebook and you make comments, they're not being seen by the people actually in the meeting. If you want to have your comments entered onto the record or into the record or for the record, go to the City of Derby website, click meetings, scroll down to Monday, April 24th, and get your Zoom ready, right? Have fun. So I wanted to play a couple of clips from last week's meeting, two in particular. There was a discussion of the school budget during a 3-hour meeting they had last week where the tax board adopted this budget. 3-hour meeting. And at one point, there was about a 10-minute discussion of the school budget. And then at the end, it was very interesting because the board went through the budget line by line. And they voted to, line by line, to approve all the line items. But then at the end, when it came to approving the budget as a whole, I believe approving the expenditures, they voted 7-1 not to do so. Never seen that before. So Derby is, I am going to say it, it's politically, it's been a bit dysfunctional with sort of this constant fighting between various factions. It gets hard to keep up with and probably a little exhausting for everybody involved. But you saw some of that last week. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but we're going to play that. Judge for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Judge for yourself. A little bit about the Derby budget. Let me share a Google document I created. We're so high tech. You're not doing this, Connecticut Post. You're not getting this level of service. Current Derby budget as approved by the vote last spring. You can see there $43,385,000 and change. The mill rate approved right now, current mill rate 38.6. Under this preliminary budget, which was Mayor Zekin's budget, they pretty much adopted his budget last week, April 18th. $47.5 million budget. And according to Walt Mayhew, the mayor's chief of staff, it has a 0.4 mill rate decrease. So if I'm hearing Walt correctly through the text he sent me, 38.6 minus 0.4 equals 38.2. You got a slight mill rate decrease proposed in this budget. And again, if you want to participate, go to the Derby City meeting calendar, find today's date. And then if you have the Zoom app, if you're already Zoom-centric, it's 833-5934-8842. Derby Schools, right? Obviously, Derby Schools is the most, their budget is the largest and most contentious, as it is in every town, in every community I've ever covered in the past 25 years. There's always a debate over the school budget. Derby Schools asked for a 4.29% increase in funding on top of its current $19.1 million budget. The mayor and the tax board, as of right now, in the preliminary budget, gives the school $19.3 million, which is about a 1% increase. Okay, so that being said, we go to this next one here. Let me see, it's 2:30. Okay, so about 2 hours and 38 minutes into the April 18th meeting. I'm going to cough because I have a bad cold. April 18th meeting of the Derby Tax Board. There was a discussion about enrollment in Derby public schools. And hopefully you're seeing that. Let me make sure that you are. You are. I'm going to play the audio. I mean, they used video, but nobody turns on their cameras anymore, which is a shame. Here we go.
998. So can I have a motion to accept 349,998 working balance budget? Alberta, can I have a second? Mike, can I have any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Wait, let me go ahead. Actually, I'm sharing the wrong thing. Hold on one.
Engineer.
I'm 10 minutes behind. I want to go to 248.
$19,375,690 for the Board of
Okay, here's the Board of Ed.
Ed.
Motion, Alberta.
I get a second?
A second, Holly Orzetti.
Thank you, Holly. Any discussion? All in favor?
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Mayor.
Here we go. Sorry. That's Chris
I
Carloni
do have
talking.
a little thing to say
Vote
on
member.
this. I was in my basement the other day and I found the 2015, 2016 proposed budget. I was comparing just the student enrollment. And it looks like there's 289 students less in the school now than we had then in all of our schools. I have a picture of it if you'd like me to flash it up on the screen and people could look at it for their own purposes. But it's 289 students. I think that's enough to actually lower the budget. I'm not positive. I don't know where that cutoff is. So I don't think we should agree to that. But if you'd like, I'll take a picture of this and put it on my screen if I could share it.
And just to interrupt real quickly here, if you're not familiar, the way the school budget is created in the city of Derby is there's a board of education. They're elected by the citizens of Derby or the voters in Derby. And that group, along with the superintendent, the administrative staff, building principals, they put together a proposed budget every year. And then it comes to vote for review, but it's actually all the nitty gritty of the school budget is created by another branch of our local government.
Go ahead, Mr. Carloni.
Also, landscapers outside or something like that. I don't have landscapers. Maybe one of my neighbors does. Perfect timing.
Thank you. First screen broadcast.
On the bottom of the screen should say share screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at that now.
Are you on your phone?
Yes, I'm on my phone. I pressed on that and it took me to,
Wherever it's on your computer, get it from there.
He's on the phone though.
yeah, I'm on the phone though. I should go to photos, I believe, because I just took a picture of it. And can you see it?
I
Can
see
you
it.
see?
Hi, Samantha. I can't remember at the moment, to be honest with you. Don't worry about stars. I appreciate the sentiment, though. You have to buy stars from Facebook, and then you can donate to the Valley Indy through the star system.
Okay.
There.
And now if you zoom in, you could tell on
Can you see
the
it now?
left, can you see it or no?
Yeah, 29, I see it. No, I got it.
Sideways?
Yeah, well,
Sideways. Hang on, I gotta look sideways.
let me see if I can take another
All right,
picture
all right,
of it.
bear with me.
Sorry.
Eventually,
Sorry.
I don't think he ever corrects the photo, but he
I'm
starts to
not,
make his point.
And I get it. I mean, you're talking what, 2000?
2015, 2016
Yeah.
proposed budget.
Right. I know, a
There-
lot of salaries went up. People been hired. I know special ed.
Listen, there's not that many. They've hired
no,
more people
I get that. I
than
know, Chris.
than they need.
I'm just throwing some things out. I know
Right.
And Doc was always saying that
Cost
special ed is pretty high up there. So, I mean, I'm an expert on, I don't get to see that budget much often. So, but I know there's a big difference, 289.
289 is a lot. They
They
do have plus
Your
20.
figures are 100% accurate. They've had a substantial reduction in the overall student population in the district. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I just was looking in the basement the other day, like I said, and I found the old budget and I was kind of shocked when I saw that they sent us. Well, we just got last week in the mail, everyone's proposed budget. And I was looking at it and was kind of shocked that there's that many less kids.
Chris, you don't think prices of everything else have gone up drastically?
Not that drastic, Jen.
That was boat member Jen
Plus, they've
DeRose.
hired more people. They have they've hired multiple people in high schools, in the other schools. I can't see the cost being that much. compared to 289 students.
So we have 289 less students or
Yes, less students.
And I'm just playing this because this is a bone of contention between the mayor's administration, the school district, and certain members of the tax board. Dr. Conway will jump on this meeting in a second from April 18th to shed
Can
some
we
light
ask
from his
Doc
perspective.
on that? Is he there?
Doc, you on?
Yes, I am on.
I'll let you get on for a second if you want.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Carloni. Yeah, so as we've presented each year, if you recall, between what Mr. Carloni has presented, 14, 15, and up until last year, we actually reduced our teaching staff at Bradley by 6 teachers. So we have reduced the staff year over year as the enrollment went down. We only noticed last year, and if you look at last year compared to the year before and now this year, and then what we're projecting for next year, and what we're starting to see is the housing market on that side of town is evolving, is last year we had to increase our K1 grade levels, and this coming year our 2-3 grade levels by 1 class per each grade level. So while over the past 7 years, we've reduced 1 class per grade level from K5 at Bradley each year. Now we're seeing that we have to increase due to change in the housing, more kids coming into housing on that side of town, which has created an increase in enrollment over the prior years. Certainly not up to the 289 that Mr. Carloni is referring to, but we are seeing a climb. So we actually reduce our budget year over year. Let me say we reduce our staffing year over year based upon our student population. And if you go back and look at each of those budgets, you'll see, at least in the last page of each budget, we normally put our reductions and any additions. And you'll be able to track that in each of those years, we reduced teaching staff at Bradley each of those years that the enrollment went down.
Going to play this for another about minute and a half.
And the only new positions that was referred to are only positions within grants. There's no new positions that have been added to the operating budget since 2012, actually. If you look at the last page in this year's budget, you'll see a decrease in number of positions in the operating budget that we have had to move into the grants because the operating budget has not been increased year over year to sustain even what's in there since 2012. So while we have not added positions, we've only reduced positions since 2012. Even with those reductions, it hasn't been able to keep up with it due to increasing contracts and all the other expenses. I get it. So, but you'll see the reductions in last year alone. If you look at the last page of your budget book this year, you'll see those reductions. That's just in 1 year that we moved over into grants simply to balance the budget.
All right, it's Eugene again. I just wanted to play that clip. I know it can be dry. I know it can be challenging to listen to that, but that's going to be, there's a public hearing tonight. And then after the public hearing, the members of the tax board, at least this is what usually happens. You never know in Derby, but what usually happens in the past, since 2009, since I've been covering it, they'll then go through the budget line by line and they'll vote on a final budget for each line, right? And when they get to the BOE, this could come up as a discussion topic tonight, as it did in years past. So that's the school budget discussion. And then I just wanted to play the end of the April 18th meeting. I'm going to share this tab instead because this was interesting too. And another thing that's newsworthy and worth highlighting on the local level when we're talking about this year's budget process in Derby. You know, there's no finance director at this point. The position of the finance director since 2009 or so has really been a revolving door in Derby. Finances and that position has been a thing, as anybody who's read this site knows. So at the end of the budget, at the end of the April 18th budget meeting, the tax board had voted on each line item, each particular dollar amount for each department, but then couldn't agree on the expenditures at the end, which kind of put the corporation council had to weigh in. So this could also come up again. That's probably why it's worth tuning in to tonight's meeting if you can. Here we go.
Final operating for the final funds, it will be.
So this is the mayor just reading the total expenditures, the total dollar amount, which you see right there, $47 million and change.
47,559,809. So we get a motion to accept.
Motion, Alberta.
They have a second. You get a second for the budget.
This is unusual.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think you need to approve the overall number because all the individual numbers have been approved and that's what they add up to.
Okay.
That's Walt Mayhew, the mayor's chief of staff, who's been a key player in
Right,
putting
so-
this budget together.
John, is
Still
that
need a
correct?
first and a second.
I don't have a second yet. Anybody want to second this?
I agree with Walter that you've already approved every line item in department.
That's the assistant finance director or the deputy
I think
finance
you
director.
Still need a general, yes, a general motion.
Did you move to set expenditures?
Lawyer.
To set expenses, to set the mill rate?
You're not setting the mill rate tonight.
Okay, so if it's just those portions of the budget, you did everything individually. You could do a vote just to kind of encapsulate it all in terms of what all the expenditures are and what all the expenses are, just to make the record clean.
And if nobody seconds it, still they approved it though, right?
You went through all the lines and approved them, so you really should be set from a technical standpoint.
Okay. Does anybody want to second this?
To get it,
Somebody.
to get it through, I'll second it, but I think we should do a roll call to make sure that it's going through.
All right. Do a roll call, Louise. All in favor?
Okay. Mr. Alberta,
Present.
Mr. Carloni,
No,
And I just paused it for the record there. The question is whether to adopt the expenditures as stated. That first person said present for some reason.
Mr. Roche,
No,
Gray,
No.
Mancini, Wright,
No.
Ms. Orizzetti,
No.
Ms. Patel,
No.
Mr. Santos,
No.
and Simmons Derby.
Well, she's not here.
Okay,
But
so you
just
have
for-
one,
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
you had one approval and 7 no's.
So this is unusual because you had the board go through the budget, like I said, adopt all the dollar amounts, but then declining to adopt the summary, essentially. So they adopted the parts, but not the whole. And in a second, Jen DeRoche, a member of the tax board, gets into it a little bit, starts to explain what's happening here. Because I know it's like they're trying to make a statement, I guess. It can be confusing with no one explaining their vote.
And I just want to, may I just, for the record, Mr. Alberta said present. Can I confirm that you're meaning to vote yes, Mr. Alberta?
Yes.
Thank you.
Again, it was
We
a
have
3-hour
seven
meeting.
more.
They're probably hallucinating.
But who's that? Mr. Ray?
That was Mike Gray. I just,
Yep.
never mind.
I have one question for all of you. Now that it's almost 10 p.m. or
This is the assistant finance director.
9 o'clock at night. At what point in time are we going to get on board together as a team and create a budget that works for Derby?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused.
It
because
sounded
we've
like you
already
guys
done
all
every line
agreed.
item.
Come June 30th, I don't have a budget. I shut everything down.
Yeah, we can't forget that we do have the public hearing for
Karen Chemesis, Derby resident, noting that not all the department votes were unanimous.
Monday scheduled.
That is a wonderful idea, but I still think you guys.
And I cut off. That was the chairman, Roberto Santos, noting that there's another meeting. This was last week, and he said there's another meeting, referring to tonight's meeting at 6 p.m.
Need to get on board. We need to come to a solution as to what we want as a team.
Mr. Chairman, in order to have a public hearing, you need a budget that's been passed.
Right.
Right.
And you
We
guys
have to
didn't
have
pass it.
I
We have
don't,
to have a preliminary budget.
I don't know. I mean, I'll ask the Corporation Council for a ruling, but if they've approved every single line item.
Yeah, and let me ask this.
Just to point out, this gets brought up a lot in our comments and in some stories I've written. Corporation Counsel, it's not a ruling. It's not a judge. It's just one lawyer's opinion.
I guess as a point of order, and as counsel to understand. So is it my understanding, and I've listened to this meeting for several hours, that there is an agreement on every single line, but
That's John Marini, Corporation Counsel. His firm acts as Derby's Corporation Counsel. He's also Ansonia's Corporation Counsel.
not the budget, but not the budget as a whole?
That's what it sounds like. I don't get it. I mean,
Well, I think we were kind of shoved through it and let's go.
Jen DeRoche.
And I think that everybody's a little uncomfortable with the way the whole thing is handled.
well, you went through each line
Well,
item.
then why-
You had an opportunity.
Yeah, but I mean,
why didn't they?
Shoved along and it's just hasn't, from my perspective, it was like, stop talking and let's go to the next thing. You ready? You ready? You ready? That's why I keep jumping in because I'm afraid you're going to slide something by me that I'm not going to be able to jump in and get
Trust
it.
me, I would never slide anything on you.
Okay,
Trust me.
I can have corporation confirm with me. I don't think I'm allowed to conduct business if I don't have a budget on July 1st.
You'll revert to the old budget,
Yeah.
Okay,
and tax bills will be sent at the old with the old budget.
with the old mill rate, which means we'll
Yes.
be at this back prior to where we are this year. Thank you so much.
And I do think, have we been sent a lot more information that we've been asking for and things on a more timely basis, we'd be all a little more comfortable with this. But it's like pulling teeth trying to get information. You can't get it. You're told
You
you're
got,
gonna
all
get
right,
it.
you got all the information. All right, so you guys made your vote and everything like that, so
Exactly, this is
we're gonna
exactly.
go for adjournment
why
and have a
everybody's
motion to
doing it.
adjourn.
Okay, so you got a little highlight there as to what's going on. So again, if you're just joining us, this was the April 18th meeting of the Derby Board of Apportionment and Taxation, where the board was poised to adopt a preliminary budget, which is being put to a public hearing tonight at 6 p.m. on Zoom. Go to the City of Derby website, click meetings, and then scroll down to today's date for the exact Zoom information. But you've got hesitancy by members of the boat to essentially pass this thing along. And then you have Jen DeRoche giving her reasons, and I don't know if she speaks for the whole board or not. We'll listen some more, where she says that she basically feels the whole thing is quote unquote being pushed down their throats, and there seems to be some hesitancy and some distrust.
Wait a minute. Have you,
And so the mayor has asked to adjourn the meeting. That's Louise Pitney, who's the recording secretary, trying to catch up administratively.
you have to approve the revenue too yet?
They approved it at the beginning.
That was done in a lump sum at the beginning.
We'd love to
But
hear
again,
from the
I guess
public
for purposes
in
of
the comments
clarification,
your
should
thoughts on this.
Should we go back through each of the lines? Were those votes incorrect?
God, I have no idea. I'm as more confused as you are.
Were there any lines that were not passed?
No, they were all passed.
So I believe all of the, I mean, in that case, logically, all of the expenditures were approved.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I do believe
I
that
just
we
felt
have a
shoved
preliminary
through it.
budget.
So there's other things I would have questioned, but I mean, just the attitude toward it.
Attitude.
So I mean, the board's and certainly, again, it's a public meeting, so any commentary, any questions, concerns, or thoughts from any of the members are obviously more than acceptable. That's the role of the committee, but of the commission. But at the end of the day, the purpose at hand is to approve the expenses and the expenditures, and it seems like that was accomplished. I just want to make sure, that we all understand that that's what was accomplished here. But obviously, the public is also going to be asked about their input about the process and, whether they would do, anything differently. But from a technical standpoint, it seems like we have accomplished approval of line by line of each of these expenditures. And I think the minutes would reflect that.
John, are we okay to move forward with a public hearing on the budget as approved for 47,559,809, both expense and revenue?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe technically I don't see any issue simply because that's what we've been working on for the duration of tonight.
3 hours and 5 minutes, yes.
Yeah. And I think the minutes reflect that, would reflect that.
And it's a preliminary budget. It's not the exact official budget. And that's why I say we can wait till Monday in the public hearing.
Yep. I'd recommend to
What
go
about
forward
the
with that
mill
public
rate?
hearing.
What about the mill rate?
So that's established after the public hearing.
Correct.
Okay. That in the minutes.
All right.
And John, could I ask you to actually look at section 9 and section 59? You don't have to do it right now.
I did. Yes, definitely. I took a look and on 59 and also 9, I mean, when it comes to salaries, I'm not disputing that the board has the ability to set salaries, but I'm talking to a specific situation where we do have an existing employment relationship and where a salary was proposed. The problem here is we have a conflict over over the way the employee is being used. It's simply my opinion that the mayor running the day-to-day activities of his office can set the hours of an HR director.
So there's
And if the
squabbling
Board of
happening
Aldermen has
between
really
the
the
mayor's
ability to set
office and
an
the
hourly
legislative branch,
salary,
and you
then
see
the
here
mayor
both
does have the discretion to
over
set the hours.
contracts
And I think
and
there is some
hires,
there's some
generally
nuance there
speaking.
to that. Again, I'm not disputing that they're not in charge of salary, but if a salary is set, I think the charter does allow the mayor as the chief executive to set the hours as needed because he's responsible for making sure, in this case, personnel gets administrated correctly. But I understand where you're coming from, and I understand your interpretation of that. And as far as the bid, the finance committee in that, and again, I reviewed again the bidding procedure. It's very clear that the finance committee in this.
And I believe what's happening here, although it's not very clear because they're not stopping and giving the public the background here. But I think what they're talking about right here with this bid, there's a financial software company, for lack of a better word, that at one of the alderman meetings recently, it was either a meeting or two ago, the assistant finance director, the deputy finance director, wants to switch companies essentially. And she went through this long list of why the current company isn't working for her. And it was all very technical in terms of, I'm going to say data entry, but you know what I mean. And the things she needs to do, the tech she needs to do her job. And at the end of it, there were some questions from like Ron Sill, alderman, raised questions about how this process had been bid. And at the end of the day, the Board of Aldermen voted not to change vendors. There was another vendor they could have used, but the aldermen voted not to. Subsequently, since that, I believe that this finance committee that's been mentioned, and I believe the mayor have started the process of dropping the old vendor and moving towards this new vendor, which again, this is one of those things, this sort of infighting and saber rattling that's become pretty common in Derby politics.
Case awards the contract, and if they've awarded the contract, then there can't be any further further requirements, further approvals necessary. In other instances, the mayor, of course, may have to go under the charter to the Board of Aldermen to get approval to sign a contract, but here the contract has already been.
And again, we're talking power struggle. Who has the who signs contracts? Who gives the mayor the authorization to sign contracts? There's been constant power struggle between the mayor's office and the Board of Aldermen since January 2021, I think, or 2022, at least the last year.
And awarded, but I'll continue, and I'll share my legal. I'll instruct the mayor's office to share my opinions with you. But it is my opinion that there's two very distinct situations there where the mayor does have the authority to make those calls.
Also, I believe there's an ordinance that says any corporation council opinions need to be filed with the clerk's office so that we have them on hand. I'm having a heck of a time trying to get the opinion on the dual office holding. I mean, they're flatly refusing to give it to me. Why, I don't know.
My understand, and again, that wasn't my opinion, but my understanding is that's reflected in the minutes of the meeting. And that certainly should be with the town clerk's office, the minutes of that meeting.
Well, we were.
Okay, one thing about that. This is, and now that you can kind of, I guess you can kind of see here that what's going on under the surface. It's like the tax board's refusal to adopt the budget as a whole there at the end, the expenditure side, even though they had approved most of the part, the majority had approved most of the parts, but not the whole. There's all these other things going on in Derby under the surface. And one of these, dual office holding, right? There is this rule in Derby that goes back a long time where you can't do business with the city and serve on a board or commission. You can't. So that was created years ago because there was just abject corruption where you ran the local window replacement place, and then you would get elected to the Board of Aldermen, and then you would get your boys on the board to hire your window company to replace all the windows in City Hall. It was that was happening quite regularly, and there was nothing in the city that said you could not do that. So they started this dual office holding rule where you have to get a waiver from the Board of Aldermen, or else you can't serve. Now, the Derby's tried to get rid of this over the years. There was a charter revision a couple of years back where the city, I think it was under, I want to say it was under Mayor Anita D'Agato's administration, where it seemed like most of the elected officials were okay with getting rid of the rule. Because now it's at the point where if you want to be a softball coach for, let's say, for Derby High School, but you're also serving on the Board of Aldermen, if there's a stipend involved, you have to get a waiver from the Board of Aldermen. If you work for Public Works and you want to serve on one of the boards of commission, you have to get a waiver from the Board of Aldermen. But what happened recently was a member of the tax board, this board that we're listening to, got a job at Public Works, but nobody brought anything forward for a waiver. So there are complaints that there are, I don't want to say many, but there are several cases of people who do business with the city who never got a waiver. So that's an underlying thing happening between, let's say, city Democrats and Mayor Rich Zekin's administration. So what ended up happening, Jen DeRoche asked at one point, can we get a written opinion on that? We're being told that the person could serve on the tax board and work for Public Works, and then the person resigned. And I've listened to John Marini, that the Corporation Council is referencing a meeting where this was brought up, but I'm not an attorney, but there's no opinion in that meeting. It's very convoluted, and it's very needle in a haystack, and it's not an answer to the direct question being asked. So I think that's as far as I know, there's no written opinion from the Corporation Council, nor is there an opinion of really any kind to that direct question in those meeting minutes.
Told there was a written opinion by the attorney. So to me, that's a document.
But you see how convoluted all this
I know
gets.
of what was reflected in the minutes by, I believe, Attorney Marino, and I could look into that and make sure there's nothing more than that.
Yeah, because all that stuff has to be filed with the clerk's office, and we need it because this stuff's popping up left and right. And we need to know what's going to happen if we find out that Mr. Blaskowitz voted illegally and we're going forward with the budget, is he brought in the quorum and he was voting, then where do we go? So I think we need to address that now rather than later.
Understood.
Blaskowitz not here.
I don't believe when I reviewed the minutes that he was on anything that would pertain to the budget, except for a transfer of $3,500 for the signage. Out of
So
the
then
word-
maybe that was an illegal transfer.
Well, then I guess we'll have to take back the money for the $3,500.
Well, I think we need to do things the right way. You keep saying charter, charter, charter. Let's follow the charter.
Yeah. All right, so listen, so it looks like we're moving forward to a public hearing. You approved all the lines. Why you didn't approve the other, I don't know, but, so I'm gonna go with adjournment and then we'll get the date for the public hearing.
Need a motion.
Well, we need to confirm the date today so we can publish and notice everything.
Has the date been set for the public hearing yet?
And I'll just say, state law in Connecticut is so asinine that the Valley Indy is the only publication covering this Derby stuff, yet they're prohibited, not prohibited. The law doesn't recognize the Valley Indy as a place where Derby can spend $99 to let people know this public hearing is happening tonight. So they pay much more money with legacy newspapers where no one reads the legal notices, including me, because I didn't even know this budget meeting happened last week. So thanks, Connecticut.
Yeah.
It was I understood it to be Monday, so.
Everybody keeps saying Monday, so let's see what we got. The 24th.
That's today.
Everybody available for the 24th?
I'll make it work.
Yes.
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 Is it Zoom or is it in person?
Zoom.
And what would the time of that be?
Same time, 6.
So I would recommend a motion to, to set that public hearing at a time certain, and if it's going to be an electronic meeting, specify that it's going to be held via Zoom.
Thank you.
Hi, Walt. I've seen those actually. They contain comments, but are those comments sensible, and are they a direct answer to the question being asked? I'd say no way. I'm not trying to take a side there, but I've read those. I could play the audio right now, or if you want to call in, you can do that.
All right. Hopefully y'all can make it on the 24th.
Like, I guess my question, Walt,
Well,
for
Mr. Mayor-
you or for Mr. Marino would be, what's the answer? The minutes clearly say, well, what does Mr. Marino say? Does not apply to employees. Yeah, I don't know if that's English. I don't know what the question is you're answering.
Again, maybe a motion. Yeah, motion to schedule that public hearing at that time and via Zoom.
That would be, and just for the record, Monday, April 24th, 6 PM via Zoom.
Perfect.
All right, so I have a motion for that.
Roberto?
Second,
Kristen?
all in favor for Monday? What did you say, 7 or 6 or 7, Mark?
6.
6 o'clock, Monday. All in favor?
So that's happening tonight. I'm going to stop sharing that. Again, tonight is the public hearing on the budget. You can see how everyone's throwing elbows in the city of Derby. And you can see it manifest itself in some of these meetings. Chief of Staff Walter Mayhew, you said Marino's comments are not clear. The minutes clearly record his answer to the question, which I just gave you directly from the minutes. I would say that sentence, the minutes clearly record his answer to the question, which I just gave you directly from the minutes, T/. I think I rest my case on that. It's not, I mean, is there a dual office holding rule in Derby or not? Forget the meeting minutes. Let's keep it simple. I mean, I don't want to get into, I'm not a politician, so I don't really want to engage in this political back and forth where we say the minutes clearly record his answer to the question, which I just gave you directly from the minutes. Did you give me the question, the answer? I don't even know what that sentence means in terms of English. So I don't mean to be rude, but clearly there's some political jockeying going on in Derby, and why this is even coming up at a boat meeting is probably interesting, to say the least. So again, if we go over, tonight is the public hearing on the Derby budget. I don't know if dual office holding will be brought up, but the current Derby budget, the one approved by BOAT last spring, that's the one they voted on. That was the dollar amount the BOAT voted upon. 48 million and change. Public hearing tonight, Zoom, 6 p.m. Go to the City of Derby website to figure out how to get into that meeting. It is quite easy. But the preliminary budget, subject to the public hearing tonight, is $47.5 million. That has a 0.4 mill rate decrease, according to a text from the Chief of Staff that I received this morning. So the mill rate, if approved as is, it goes from 38.6 to 38.2. And then, because Derby schools is always the big one, in any school district budget, in any city budget, anywhere, they asked for a 4.29% increase. That's on top of its current funding of $19.1 million. The mayor and the tax board are considering giving them 19.3, which is a 1% increase. So if you want more clarity on the Derby budget, attend tonight's meeting. If you have any questions about whether dual office holding is still a rule enforced in the City of Derby, go visit the April 2022 BOAA section 7.4.1, where Marino talks about it. 198,300 increase, 1.6. I think that's different than what you published though, Walt, because I'm seeing different numbers. I was just looking at the public hearing. Again, it's a little tough sometimes to get exact info out of the City of Derby. We have Walt saying it's a 1.6%. Is your starting number the budget that was approved or the amended budget? Because I go by every newspaper I've worked at for 25 years, doesn't go on the amended budget. You go on what was approved last year, because that's what was approved. That's the record. That's the number that the public has access to. Give Walt a second to answer that. Yeah, amended it. Gotcha. Okay, so Walt's going for the amended, but I don't usually go by that number, only because we have to go by what was approved by the tax board last year. Otherwise, he's going by the amended. So what they do a lot of times is a city or municipality or an entity will adopt a budget and then change it once the fiscal year starts. But obviously, and this is just journalism 101, you go by what they approved, because otherwise, what's the point of covering any of this if it can just change at the whim and none of it's valid and it's all just subject to complete change? Because usually, it's a good faith coverage. You assume that what they approve, their projections they're going to stick with. So, but I said 1%. Walt is saying 1.6 if you use your starting block as the amended budget. All right. I still disagree with you on the corporation council stuff, the dual office holding. I read those meeting minutes. I mean, maybe should I try to I can try to find it. You want to try? If people want to stick around for a second, let's see. I have the City Derby website open. And you're saying it's from April 2022. I think I'm in 2023 right now. Hold on, I'll play some music as I do this. April 2022. I got to scroll all the way up the screen. All right, I'm clicking on 2022. I'm in January. I'm scrolling down. I'm in February. I'm looking at March. Right, this is what the kids do when they stream. What date did you say it was? April. Oh no, it's just You know if it was the April 7th meeting by any chance? I'm in the April 7th meeting. Can I search these, or you can't search by word, can you? Oops, don't want to dox people. Update on department head reports. Okay, here we go. Section, let me make that larger. Thank you, Walt. Here we go. Section 13 of the city charter, dual office holding. Update on response of city officials regarding Section 13 of the city charter discussion. I don't understand that sentence. Mr. Sill explained this has never been on the agenda for so long, and as far as he knows, there may be 3 people that need it, and can the board just vote on that? Mayor Zekin explained that if they want to work for the city, they need to fill out the waiver. Ms. Wadomsky asked if everyone filled out the forms. Mayor Zekin explained he doesn't know, and to ask Mr. Garofalo. Mr. Marino explained this depends on the position being held. He explained Section 13 does not apply to employees, it applies to officials, so depending on the individual. I'm sorry, that does not make any sense. He explained this is not a matter for the board, it's a matter for the individual to file it if it is necessary, unless under violation. I don't know what that means. Mr. Marino said it should come off the agenda until someone submits something that needs to be addressed. Mr. Garofalo explained the reason why this is on the agenda is because there is a lot of new people, so there is no way any of us in City Hall could know. I mean, okay. Really not germane to the budget discussion. Yeah, I do agree with that. It is kind of a tangent, but it isn't. I mean, hey, look, the dual office holding section of the Derby Charter is interesting. It's probably unconstitutional if somebody put it to court, because you really can't put limits like that, as far as I know, on people taking public office. But I would also argue that's not a response to the question. That is gobbledygook as I read it. And I don't mean to offend Mr. Marino, but Marino rules that Section 13 does not apply to employees. I would say, Walt, that's your that's your spin on whatever that sentence is. He also says that none of this matters. It doesn't apply to anyone unless someone brings it up, which I mean, he's got that should be put in some type of comprehend. That can't be passed off as a actual opinion of the Corporation Council, that if you ask for a written opinion, if the Board of Aldermen voted to seek a legal opinion from the Corporation Council, that would suffice. You could just refer them to that. I don't know. All right, we're totally getting geeky here, but yeah, I don't know what to do with that. I could read it again. I mean, let's look at the city charter real fast, because I don't think, I always thought not the corporation council, this section of the charter was equally insane. Now the question is, can I find the Derby City Charter? Charter, effective 2020. All right, where's this dual office holding? Damn it. Is this even searchable? Can I just search dual and it comes up? Oh, okay. Kabam. So with Mr. Marino's sort of off the top of his head thoughts in mind, this is actually the section on dual office holding. No officer of said city shall be at the same time a member of the Board of Aldermen. So Marino says it's all hinges upon what an officer is, an officer of the city. No officer of said city shall be at the same time a member of the Board of Aldermen / Alderwomen. Neither the mayor, street commissioner, director of public works, police commissioners, fire commissioner, nor any other officer of said city, either elected or appointed, including members of the Board of Aldermen, Alderwomen, members of the Board of Apportionment and Taxation, members of the Finance Committee, and members of the Board of Education, shall directly or indirectly furnish any materials to said city, or be directly or indirectly employed to do any work for said city, except her official duty. The provisions of this section may be waived by unanimous vote of the Board of Aldermen and Alderwomen. And then it says, Marino rules that Section 13 doesn't apply to employees. I don't get that. I'm sorry. Walt says, hopefully tonight focuses solely on the budget and we can approve the mayor's budget with the tax cut and move on. Does seem there are other forces perhaps at work. It is an election year after all. But all right, I'm going to go. I still don't get the office holding thing, Walt. I'm sorry. I don't understand what Vince is saying there. I mean, the whole, maybe there's another charter revision out there looming. So that's it. I just wanted, again, play that meeting from last week to get some audio. You saw the bones of the points of contention there during that meeting. It was a 3-hour thing. I didn't go back and listen to all 3 hours, but it is our democracy at work here, and you people can get involved. If you want to go to the meeting tonight on Zoom, I encourage you to do so. Walt says, have a good rest of your day, Eugene. Take care. You too, Walt. I should have just given you the phone number to call in, but that might have been a lot technically. All right, so there we go. Impromptu. Democracy in action. Go to the City of Derby website, click meeting calendar, go to today's date, log on to Zoom tonight if you want to weigh in on the proposed Derby budget. It proposes a tax decrease of 0.4 mils, which is probably the most important thing to everybody. And also, if you just want to lay back and hit comments, you can do so by going to the Valley Indy Facebook page today, because I'm going to stream that at 6 p.m. And again, the Great Give is next week. If you like this weird type of journalism and you want to support a guy in his basement arguing with the mayor's chief of staff about dual office holding, you can donate a few bucks, May 3rd and May 4th. Donate.valleyindy.org. Thank you so much to everybody who watched this, and see you in a couple of hours.